All right, now joining us to talk about these violent protests, Vice Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Francis Rooney. Congressman, good to have you here on such an important day. You know, we've wanted to do this. We've said we would do it. We showed the video earlier of every president promising. Every single one of them punted because they were concerned about security concerns. Here we are on this big day, and the Palestinians indeed are expressing their outrage, disappointment, etc. And now we're seeing bloodshed as a result. Does this get us, in your view, any closer to some kind of peace there between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
I actually think it does. I think that it's not profitable to cower before violent, destructive behavior, nor to appease terrorists. And I lived through that with the first Charlie Hebdo cartoons in 2005 when I was ambassador in the Vatican. And we started appeasing those people, Europe did, and now what we got is a whole lot more Charlie Hebdos in Europe. We have to confront the reality of what they're doing.
You know, why haven't we before? I mean, and it's not as though it's a partisan thing. Bush, Clinton, Obama, no one wanted to do it. How come?
We finally got a guy that'll do what he says, and I think that's very rare in politics. Mr. Trump's not a professional politician, neither am I. And now the North Koreans have got to be sitting back there saying, yep, this guy means what he says. The Iranians have got to be sitting back saying,
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, this is sending a message to everyone.
Exactly.
You mentioned Donald Trump's not a politician. You said you're not either. I mean, what is the kind of approach that you think a non-politician brings to this that is so vastly different?
Well, I can't speak for the president, but I think he does kind of think like a business person. He's a real estate developer and business guy. I look at things as a problem to be solved, break them down into the constituent pieces, and try to find an answer. For example, that term limits bill I introduced that does not require a constitutional amendment. Everybody keeps going around the Capitol talking about, I'm for term limits, as long as we have to have a constitutional amendment, what we'll never have. I came up with a way to do it.
So problem solving, et cetera. What about also the money, right? Because I think the money has something to do with all this. I mean, every other politician is worried about their next election, how they're going to get elected, and how much money they're going to have in order to achieve that. This president wasn't beholden to anyone. He just goes in and says, okay, this is messed up, let's fix it, boom, boom, boom. Doesn't take no for an answer, and I think that is completely different. I mean, who might be similar? Maybe, you know, Ross Perot could have promised a similar type thing, but the idea that you're not beholden to anyone, Congressman, I think that matters.
I think it really matters. I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm one of about 2 Republicans that don't take PAC money. And that's why I spoke up about gun violence, because I'm not scared of the NRA. I'm willing to speak up about the uncompetitiveness of pharma and how they're ripping off our seniors, because I'm not scared of them. And I'm willing to say the things that need to be said.
Pharma, that's a big deal, too. I mean, we just saw that last week. I mean, it's one thing after another. The news cycle's going so fast. But the president coming out and saying, we're not going to deal with these high-priced drugs anymore. And it is a trade issue, and we need to negotiate better. And the idea that, you know, Switzerland can pay pennies on the dollar for the same exact drug tells you that something's not right. And unfortunately, that was a deal negotiated back at a time when, you know, there were many special interests. And if you cut out those middlemen, you might actually have some success. Congressman, do you support what the president's doing as far as drug pricing?
I absolutely do. In fact, I'm going to introduce 2 bills here real soon. One to require the HHS secretary to compete drugs under Medicare Part D. That was a really bad deal that the government made a few years ago to exempt the drug companies from competition. The other one is to use a labor negotiation principle called most favored nation pricing, that if a drug company sells some drug for a lower price in some other country, they have to reduce that price here, which would make it impossible for them to do it.
So, in other words, if Switzerland does a great job negotiating, then we'll at least get the benefit of that. Anyway, it's good to see you, Congressman. Appreciate you being on today.
Thank you very much.